Hey YouTube, how's it going? Alright, I just figured I'd do a video on the Remington 740. This particular model here, this is a Remington 740, like I said, chambered in 30-06, manufactured in 1957. This is the ADL version with the wood checkering. This rifle was originally my grandfather's, and he handed it down to me. I received it. When he passed away, my grandmother brought it down. So yeah, here it is. I figured I'd do a review on it. There aren't many videos on the Remington 740. I just haven't seen that many. I saw one on the Remington 742, I believe, but it was alright. It wasn't that thorough. I think it was just about taking it apart and cleaning it. It's just got a Japanese 3-9x40 Tasco scope. I'm not sure exactly the details on it. That's just what was on the rifle. I don't know exactly what rings. I believe those are the Weaver rings and bases. Yeah. So yeah, nice rifle. The magazine, of course, I don't know if you guys can tell, but the magazine has been very well loved. It's worn down to the bare metal, but nothing wrong with that. I like it. Of course, we can do our safety check, as always. Nothing. Weapon is cleared. Now no one has to comment. So yeah, this rifle shoots pretty well. I've heard some reports saying that people say, it's more of a bullet hose than anything else, but honestly, just with the standard, the Federal 180 grain soft points, I've gotten pretty good groupings out of it. Let me show you my target here. I shot this back in September, and this was at 100 yards. And so this was one grouping, and then I made a scope adjustment, or sorry, excuse me, this was first grouping, and then I made a scope adjustment and brought it down to here. That's not too bad. I believe that is maybe an inch, maybe just over an inch, if anything. Let's check. Center to center. Yeah, so it's, you guys probably can't read that, but it's just over an inch. It's about 1 1/10 inches. And that's not too bad for a 1957 rifle. Here, about the same. So yeah, about 1 inch, 1 1/10 inches. That's pretty good for a 1957 740 from what I've seen. Now, some people say that the receiver here is prone to nicks on the inside part over here, and that's just some defect with the 740 series of rifles. I'll take it apart so I can show you guys what I'm talking about, and then I'll remove the trigger group just so you guys can see how to remove it in case that's what you came here for. So I'll do that for you. You will need a punch for this. I just use a standard punch, and so basically you just take your punch and you punch this pin out there, and you go to the next one. Now the smaller one here in front I've found to be more difficult than the first, and I think that's just because these need to be punched out in a specific order. So hold on here. Let me get this out for you. There you go. There's one. Let's see if we come from the other side, if that makes it any better. There we go. So yeah, there we go. Gotta finagle them a little bit to get them out of there. There we go. Cool. Sweet. Oops, forgot to take out the magazine. Yeah, it's kind of tricky when you forget to take out the magazine. It can get kind of stuck and want to come out with the trigger group. There we go. There's our magazine. And then here, we just pull down first and then back, and it comes out much easier. There's your trigger group, so you can see our hammer, our safety. There you go. So yeah, of course, when you pull back on the charging handle, this gets moved backward, stays cocked, and then switch the safety off, pull the trigger, and that thing there moves, releases the hammer, sends one downrange. So that's how that works. So now we have our receiver, just plain, nothing in there. And so I'll show you the nicks that I was telling you about, where the bolt bounces basically when it comes backward. So you see there, you see, seems like there's plenty of light. So yeah, right there, 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 and there. And so yeah, as this thing right here comes backward, with each shot, it makes these nicks in the metal, and those are pretty noticeable. It seems to be pretty clear on the video, but when you move the bolt back, you can kind of feel that thing slide over those guys, and it's not all that pleasant. They kind of go forward too. They're hard to see. They go underneath the bolt. Anyway, that's not really too much of a deal. I don't shoot this thing too often, just because I don't want to wear it down. You know, it's kind of an heirloom at this point. But hopefully I'll take it elk hunting someday, and you know, just for posterity's sake, right? So yeah, so to put this thing back together, see if I can remember which way the pins went in, because that is kind of important. So yeah, it's easier if you pull this back. And then what you can do is you just slide it in there. I find it's easy if you put the front in first and then the back, like so. So you just, like that, slide it inward. And so this pin came out from the other side, so let's put it back in that way. I think. Let's try the other side. There we go. So there's one. And then two, I think, is the pin that's got to come in from this other side over here. Of course, it helps if the holes are lined up. So let's use our push. There we go. So yeah, just push that pin in there. Now everything with our trigger group is in place. And one thing that I've noticed, if you don't want to dry fire it, I don't really like dry firing my guns. So what I do is I can stick my finger up in the action. I can feel the front of the hammer. Remember that hammer I showed you that flies forward? I can feel the front of that thing. And so with my finger in there, I can push down on it and then pull the trigger and slowly let it forward. And that way I don't have to dry fire it. So I don't know if you guys probably can't see that, but inside the hammer is forward and you can see it resting on the firing pin. So yeah, that's how I do that. And then just take your magazine, slide it on in there, and that's it. That is the Remington 740 ADL. It's got a buckhorn rear sight that folds down. Kind of handy, but because there's a scope on there, I just keep it folded down for me. One thing that when you shoot this rifle you want to be careful of is right there. So those two slits, that allows excess gas to escape from the action as it cycles. So for those of you that don't know how a gas-operated semi-automatic rifle works, basically what happens is when you shoot, or when you pull the trigger, of course, you pull the trigger, hammer goes down, hits the firing pin there, which then strikes the primer on a bullet, the silver part right there, which of course ignites the powder inside the casing, which sends the bullet down the barrel. As the bullet travels down the barrel, it gets to a point right here where those slits are, and that's called a gas block. And so there's a hole drilled in the barrel that allows the gas from behind the bullet, allows part of it to escape and come down this tube. And so when it comes down this tube, there's a nozzle that faces this way, and it pushes on a piston. So the gas comes out of the barrel a little bit, down the hole, out of this nozzle, and it pushes this entire assembly backward, which is connected to the charging handle here. So as you fire, the gas comes down, and of course the bullet's already out of here. Gas comes down, pushes back on this thing, which is connected to the charging handle, which sends the action backward, and then it loads a new bullet, or cartridge, excuse me, loads a new bullet, or cartridge, and then the whole thing goes over again. You pull the trigger, bang, bullet goes down the barrel, some of the gas escapes, sends this whole assembly moving backward, which loads another round. Yeah, so that's about it. The reason you have to be careful is because that's where the gas escapes when it's done doing its thing with the piston. So don't keep your hands there, don't put your hands over that, you'll probably get burned. I have not made that mistake. I've always made sure people keep their fingers and hands away from that when they shoot this rifle, and I have not had any problems. Just be careful, be aware. That's usually the main thing with safety around firearms anyways, isn't it? Be aware, be careful, use your best judgment, that sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, so 30-06, 740, Remington ADL, 1957. Really like this rifle. Pretty accurate, not too bad. Yeah. Good shooting, my friends.